Well, what's up, boys and girls? Everybody doing all right this Friday at 3? Are you busy working on your machine, getting it ready for the 4th of July? What do we have? What, 2 more weeks? Well, so if you're needing to do anything, you better get after it. So what have I been up to around here? It's been kind of a slow week for the most part, doing work on that ancient 2009 Kawasaki Mule that spent its whole life going between our 2 buildings. I managed to wrestle it away from the admin, and I've been resurrecting it so it can head out to retirement at my house. So that's been about it. Other thing that I did, I learned this from advice from a retired Coca-Cola executive, and he was watching me work on whatever job it was. And he's like, John, there's something you're going to need to figure out eventually. I said, what is that? And he said, well, if your job is to cut down trees, every so often you're going to have to stop and sharpen your axe. A lot of wisdom in that. So I spent about the last day and a half just pulling this place apart, cleaning it up, organizing, purging, and then putting it back together. And he's right. Every so often, you just gotta hit the reset button. So that's what happened in the studio. So nothing really that exciting to report. I mean, nothing going on in the motocross, supercross world at the moment, or the side-by-side, or the jet ski. It's all quiet right now. So I would imagine Nathan and Mike and Taryn, they're probably glad about that, giving them a break, because they have been very busy this season, hitting all of the events out with Team PRMX. So taking a little bit of a breather, and then they'll dive right back into it. So some other projects coming down the tracks for us that they won't let me talk about yet. But I'm going to be doing another engine build. I'm actually staring at it right now. I just can't tell you anything about it yet. This is just helping out a fellow enthusiast, and he's a presenter as well. But we're just not going to let the cat out of the bag just yet. Not that he couldn't build it himself. It's just that he's a little bit busy right now. So I said, well, I happen to have one here. How about we help you out? But that's as much as I'm telling you. All right, as far as helping people out, let's take a look what Hank had lined up for me for this week. And actually, anything that you send in, I'm going to have to pick through it, because I don't have him on the other end feeding me the questions that y'all are sending in today. So it may take me a minute to scroll through like the good old days to get to the questions. But these are the ones that got sent in on that Ask Partzilla email address. Money Reptile 792. How do I fix a lean mixture on an EFI ATV? Well, if you're modifying it, or if you have modified it either with exhaust or intake or whatever, and you need to adjust your air fuel, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can reflash your ECU, but that really takes a good tuner that knows what he's doing, or a pre-programmed tune where they know exactly what you've done to your machine. Other one that's a little bit easier is to use a piggyback system, something from DynoJet. And once again, they've got canned programs, if you will, because basically what that system is doing, it's just kind of lying to your ECU a little bit. There is one other system that I really like that DynoJet came out with, and that is the Dyno Tune Vision 4. Now, that one is really cool. That one actually flashes your ECU, but there's not that many machines yet that they've been able to write the program for. But any one of those three is going to, get it tuned the way it should be. But just be careful if you go with a custom job, because that one can get you in trouble, or get your machine in trouble. Last thing you want to do is lean out your machine. It'll run good for a short period of time, and then it's got to have the right amount of fuel in there to keep things cool, if that makes any sense to you at all. Pale Beach Bum, what are your thoughts on today's requirement of the 0 W20 in so many modern engines? I feel like they're only requiring this to improve fuel economy. I'll worry about it shortening the engine life long term. Is 5W30 year-round a better option in modern vehicle engines? For the most part, I think you're right, especially in the automotive side of things. They're trying to squeeze every little last bit of fuel economy out of these engines. And if you run a thinner oil, which is 0 W20 is, yeah, it's less resistance inside the engine, and hence you're going to get a little bit better gas mileage. The downside is, well, of course, you can spin a bearing very quickly. And especially if you're in a hot environment like we are here in Southwest Georgia, or even more so out on a racetrack, it gets even more pronounced. Just to give you an idea, the engine in my race car, my track car, I run 15 W60 in it with an additive. So, man, that stuff, when I first start up that engine, it sounds like I didn't tighten up the connector rods when it's a lot of the pistons slapping around. But it sounds awful until it comes up to temp, just sitting there idling along. But once it hits that temp, then it's good to go. And believe me, when you heat up an engine all the way, that thick oil that you put in the engine, it is basically water flowing through it. And don't believe me? Try changing your oil when your engine's completely hot. Y'all can't see it, but there's two girls trying to tiptoe through the studio right now. Oh, they're hiding as if I'm gonna point the camera at them. Oh, the work goes on around me. Believe me, we're in high gear around here trying to get all these parts out to you. All right, but the last part of that was, is 5W30 a year-round better option in modern vehicle engines? In my humble opinion, yes. I think it's a safer option, providing, of course, you let it to come up to temp before you really start hammering it. That's just a fact of life, especially with these high-tolerance, high-performance engines. Juan Flores, I have a 2006 YFZ 450, and it seems to backfire really badly. What could be the problem? I did order a new carburetor for it, but that backfire is caused by either it being too rich or too lean. So you really need to do a plug read and then adjust your jetting accordingly. On the carb, you basically have 3 or 4 different circuits. So you need to kind of isolate which circuit is causing the backfire. My bet would be it's on D cell. So I would be looking at the pilot jet and maybe that first lead-in jet. And once you do a plug read on it, if you're really not sure, just adjust it a little bit. Go, 1 or 2 clicks or a half a turn on your pilot air fuel, see what it does, and then go the other way. Eventually, you'll zero in on it. Matter of fact, I did really basic carburetor tune on our little KLX 110, and I'm pretty sure that's live. So if you would go to that one's playlist, and they can, or I can walk you through how to zero in, because I've started out way one way and ended up going the other direction and eventually got it right in the middle. So go take a peek at that. Brandon Coffee. I'm having some issues with my Razer. It's a 2013 900. And while riding this past weekend, the power steering kept going out and the check engine light kept coming on. Ooh. I tested the battery and it was at 12.6, but at idle, it was 15.9. I tested the stator and I'm getting 0.5 ohms, which is way above spec, and for AC volts, I'm getting 3 volts at idle. How can this be if the battery is overcharging? Well, I have to agree with you. When you measure the AC volts, where are you measuring that from? Because you want to measure it from phase to phase. On the Polaris harness, I believe it's a yellow conductor coming off, or yellow wires that come off the stator, and you should be going from wire to wire, A to B, A to C, and then C to A, to where you can make sure you've got the same voltage all the way around. And it should be around 25 to 30 volts, even at idle, a lot more than just 3. But to get back to your question, I would 15.9 volts, that's too much. And that is probably wreaking havoc on, or is wreaking havoc on your electrical system, particularly your ECU, which I hope you haven't burned up by now, and the power steering controller itself, which I believe is a separate unit up under the front, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while. But yeah, you keep pumping that kind of voltage in there, and it's going to eventually destroy something. And more than likely, I don't think it's going to be your stator. This is going to be the regulator part of your regulator rectifier. The rectifier is working fine, apparently, but the regulator is apparently lost control of it. So you should be charging at 14 and a half at the most. 16, that's way too high. So I think you could safely go ahead and buy a regulator rectifier and call it a day. Tim Huttinger, I have a 2008 Razer 800. The battery light came on as we were climbing a long, steep mountain. I checked everything with my fluke meter, as your video describes. Couldn't find anything out of order. Any suggestions? I'm not sure what the hill climb, how that would factor into it, other than maybe it wasn't turning quite as many RPMs as it was climbing up. And that would indicate to me that maybe your alternator is, or your stator is starting to break down a little bit. So it's wanting a little bit more juice than it can provide at a lower RPM. And I'm kind of speculating here. My advice for the time being is, instead of climbing up in high, which I'm guessing that you did, drop it down to low and go ahead and bring your RPMs up. And that should at least get the charging in the area it should be. All right, looks like we got 2 more from last week. Tony, Polaris 570 SP Touring. John, I have a 2019 Polaris 570 XP AEPS Touring. While about 40 miles into a slow ride, the bike quit, but before I noticed the instrument gauge was flashing ORV. Oh boy, and was reading 16 to 16.4. Now the battery is dead and it only reads 10 volts. Any ideas? I think this is going to be another one of this case of the regulator has lost control. It has way overcharged the battery and destroyed it, especially if it's only reading 10 volts. Now, it could be, before you jump out and buy a regulator rectifier, your battery's already wasted. Go get another battery. Make sure it's charged correctly, hook it up, and then do a reading. If it's charging in between 14 and 14 and a half, then great. Is it out of characteristic, even when it's trying to force charge a dead battery to go to 16 volts? I kind of think so, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. So at least give that a shot before you replace the regulator rectifier. Just don't run it too long if it is outputting at that 16.4 volts, because the battery can put up with it for a short period of time, but not an extended length of time. Austin Montover, what was the symptoms that led you to replace the clutch? I have an 07 TRX 400EX, and the gears won't engage until I'm about 3/4 out on the clutch. That's not a clutch issue, correct? Yeah, you're correct on that. The clutch typically, or always, needs to be replaced when you've got it adjusted correctly and you've let it out and you're going through the throttle and the RPMs just go up. That means it's slipping. In your case, you're having to let your clutch out a little bit to get the transmission to switch gears, because you've got your internal transmission, you've got gears that are trying to lock, and the edges may be rounded, and you're having to force them a little bit with rotation to get them to lock in. Now, is there any way to fix that without cracking open your crankcase? really not. And it's going to get progressively worse. But before you do that, what oil are you running? I mean, this is not going to fix the problem, but it may keep you from having to go in there too quick. The reason I bring that up is I had I think it was an 04 and an 05 VTX 1300. And when I first got it, the shifting on it was horrible. It was really notchy. And I'm not going to say which oil the previous owner had in there, but I dumped it out. And I went with the Honda, the GN4 oil in the gold model. And after a couple hundred miles, she started to smooth out and then shift as she was supposed to. And because I really thought I was going to have to open that one up. But no, in that case, it worked. So give that a shot first before you go tearing into it. All right, well, that catches me up for last week. Let's see if I can get to the beginning of this one and see what questions you got. Dallas Scott said, doing well. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining or for tuning in, Dallas. Noisy Boy, hey, John, and good day. Good day to you as well. Yamaha R6 2009. I recently replaced the clutch basket and friction plates, and I got a secondhand basket. The bike is on plus or minus 70,000 kilometers. Is there anything else you would recommend looking at the engine-wise and replacing? At 70K, that's right, about 50,000 miles. No, keep going. Keep going. I mean, replace parts as needed, and just make sure you're up on all your fluids as far as maintenance, as far as getting them flushed out. In particular, the cooling system. If you've never done a cooling system flush, go ahead and do it now, because it's getting on up there to where you're getting some deposits, I'm sure, inside of the system, and a good flush will do it. And I'm not talking about just draining it out and refilling it. I'm actually talking about using like a flushing solvent. Peak makes one, and they have one specifically for aluminum radiators, and that's what you're going to need. And matter of fact, I think I did that on a KLR 650. I'm starting to lose my voice. Bad time for that. But yeah, go through the flushing process and then refill it. And then, of course, your regular fluids like brakes, just brake fluid, and just go ahead and get that flushed out all the way. Don't drain it out, flush it out. You don't want to have to drain it and then try to get all the air, fight to get all the air out of it. Ben S. Vortex. Okay, I'm not sure what that's referencing, but okay. BT to TYMZ. I'm working on a 2020 Polaris Ranger 500, and I need to replace the U-joints on the prop shaft, and I'm struggling getting the roll pin out, and I'm stuck what to do. Yeah, they're not easy. Polaris does make a special tool that you use to push in to get out those, and then push out those clips that you have to get out of the way before you can push the pins through to pull the cap off and then recenter it and then lift it out. I've never enjoyed doing prop shafts and U-joints. It's not easy. Kind of hard to explain as well. I think we did U-joints on the WAC Z1000. So well, I know I did, but I think we recorded that. So take a peek at it and see if I can guide you through that one. But yeah, get your pain. I'm about to bring that 2009 completely worn out Mule 4010 trans that's having the same problem. So I'll bring it in here and do that. But hey, you don't want to wait on me to show you do that. I may just do a U-joint replacement, just a general one on the bench. Sound like a good video for y'all? Because it's not a fun experience. All right. Oh, Malguiti F12 Phantom. Oh, pilot maybe. Oh, we love you and your services and advices. The Partzilla website is amazing, especially with all the parts diagram detail. Too bad that I'm on the other side of the planet in England. Well, I think we still ship to England. What time is it over there right now? I guess y'all are, what, 6 hours behind us? Something like that. Well, thanks for joining us, and thanks for purchasing over here at Partzilla. I'll tell you what, Phantom, let's do this. Nathan, if you would drop in our email address, that Ask Partzilla one, and drop it in. Phantom One, if you'll send us your shirt size and address, we'll ship you a swag pack overseas. That sound like a deal? Let's do it. So, Nathan, if you would get in touch with Phantom One, and let's see if we can get him set up. Soy es bueno. You got any exhaust for a 2008 R6S? I would bet that we do. Am I going to know off the top of my head? No. But certainly, if you want to send a question in to Ask Partzilla, I can do some research for it. If not, just call our guys. I mean, the call center boys and girls, they're good at what they do. So give them a call, and maybe they can direct you into whichever one that you're looking for. All right, Oscar Diaz. I have a 2024 Polaris Scrambler 1000, and I remove the drive shaft to change a boot. What are the pound-feet of torque on the rear arm bolts, specifically between the arms? Okay, you're scrolling up, and the brake system. Oscar, I'm not going to know that off the top of my head, and also the torque for the shock and absorber bolts. But Nathan, if you would make a note of that, I'll look it up because I've got access to all these manuals, and I will start off next Friday with the answer to that question. But if that's not soon enough, send it over to that Ask Partzilla at youtube.partzilla.com, and I can respond to you directly from there. I'll do both. That sound like a deal? All right. Dallas Scott, new to the quad world and Partzilla, have watched your Grizzly videos. Cool. Hopefully we're helping you out. Bought a non-running Grizzly 700. Took a week and a half to get it running again. Have a longer question maybe for next week's video. Where do we go to ask questions? I'm going to need periodic help with this one. Partzilla is my go-to place now. I'm watching on Facebook. Yeah, send your questions. This is where we get all our questions from. Send it to Ask Partzilla at youtube.partzilla.com. Bad timing. You'd think I'd remember our own email address. I'll get it in there eventually. Yeah, can I remember lyrics from songs in 1972 that I haven't heard in 30 years? No problem. Something you just tell me, not going to happen. All right, kids. Well, it looks like I caught up with you. So if the few that I mentioned that email address, send me that information, and I'll respond back to you. All right, sound like a deal? All right. Once again, good set of questions. Enjoyed spending a little bit of time with you. If you would, everybody have a great weekend, a great week, and then we will jump right back in next Friday at 3 and do all this again. So y'all take care.